Hello and welcome to my channel. This is probably going to be the first ever YouTube video that I'm uploading onto YouTube, so I'm a little bit nervous about that. But I thought it was quite fitting to start with a Notion tour for my first ever video because I'm a bit of an organizational freak, but I'm also, being an INFJ, a bit of a contradiction where I crave that structure and that ability to plan, but I also crave the freedom to not have to stick to that plan. And I feel like Notion has really given me the flexibility with that. I haven't found another program that has worked as well. I tried Trello, I tried Asana, I looked at Evernote, but I didn't really ever get into it because it was paid, and I started on the free personal plan for Notion. I now pay for it and use it for my business and have my visual designer who helps me with my social media and stuff. She has access in my workspace. So I just have been using it for about a year now, and I have not found anything else that works as well. I'm not someone who works very well with paper planners, again, because I lack the perfection of everything being completed or everything being ticked off. And that can't happen on a paper planner. You've often got pages that you feel like you've skipped or whatever. It's not a very nice feeling. And if you are anything like me, then you might like my Notion setup because it's very flexible and can satisfy the completionist in you, but also the free spirit who doesn't want to be nailed down to a certain system. So yeah, I am going to take you through my tour, and I'll give you a little bit of a background about who I am and why I use Notion, so that then the tour makes a bit more sense. So I am a freelance editor, writer, and I'm also a content creator. So I have all sorts of things happening in my Notion. I've got my, daily tracking and planning. I've got my content creation. I've got my system where I'm creating work for clients. I've got a system where I'm creating projects for myself. And I've also got a book planning template and system that I use for writing either novels or non-fiction projects that I'm working on as a ghostwriter. I will use that template to plan a lot of things, and I actually have a separate video that will be going up just after this one, and you'll probably finding this well after I've uploaded all of my first videos, let's be real, because newbie YouTubers aren't going to be showing up on your front page. So that will most likely be linked up here as well, or I'll have it in the description once it's uploaded. I'll come back and put it in the description of this video so you can find it. But yeah, if you are a writer or an author, and if you're watching this video, you probably are because that's who I talk to most often. But if not, there's still be plenty in here if you're a content creator or something like that. But I do have a quick look at that template, but I have a video specifically for it if that's really interesting for you. But I think I'm getting a bit waffly now. I think I'll jump in and start doing the actual tour, and I'll start with my content creation hub. So just one moment. All right, cool. So here we are, we're on my content creation hub. If you haven't used Notion before, then off to the left here is the sidebar menu where you can navigate between all of your pages. But my OBS was being a pain, so we decided to leave it off. And there's also some sensitive information on there that, let's be honest, I was a bit too lazy to change to film a video. So here we have my menu is cut off, but it's very intuitive. If you start using Notion for the first time, the menu's very easy to understand. So I don't think it needs to necessarily be on here. So let's get started. This is my content creation hub. So this is like literally the first page at the top of my menu because it's honestly where I spend the most time. If you're a content creator, you'll know as well that you do spend a lot of time creating new content or recording ideas for new content and that sort of thing. So I have Instagram at the top because Instagram is the social media I use the most. I don't really use any other social media, I suppose, besides YouTube now, which doesn't have a section on my content creation hub yet because it's a bit of an experiment. But if I do continue to make YouTube videos and make it something that I do regularly, then you can always comment down below and ask me how I plan my YouTube videos, because I'm sure over the next couple of months I'll be coming up with some sort of system for that. But right now it's very off the cuff and new, if you can't tell. We've got Instagram and we've got some highlights that I'm working on, and I'm also going to be doing a story game soon. This is where both me and my visual designer, we spend a lot of time. She helps me organize my grids. So this is an example of like a grid planned out, and this is just a grid made in Canva that then I've uploaded in here for me to be able to see what's happening and what's going to be reels. So this one ended up definitely being a reel. This one is also a reel now. And this one, yeah, was a reel, and so is this one. So I've been really loving the reels lately, which is kind of harder to plan in here, but for grid posts, I write my caption here. So this one will go up soon. This is the subject that I'm wanting to write on, but I sat down last night to start writing that caption and somehow ended up researching making YouTube videos, and here I am today recording a Notion tour because I feel like it's really still underused in my niche. I focus a lot on working with self-publishing authors and writers and creative business owners, and I feel like Notion, even though it is gaining traction, it is quite popular in the kind of business community. I feel like we creatives are kind of a bit behind on it a little bit, so I thought I would jump in and show everyone why I love it so much. And it's something easier because the focus isn't on me for my first YouTube video. So win-win in my introvert brain. So yeah, this is the grid, and this is where I do my grid planning and write my captions. And we'll see further down that when I've finished with this one, I will change this from created to scheduled, and it will actually disappear from this row here so that then I know how many captions I've got left before I need to start loading in the frames for my next grid. So down here I've got Reels and TikToks where I do planning and I have ideas. We're in the process of making some of these at the moment. I am changing up my system for how I do this a little bit. I've posted 2 TikTok videos at this point, but I'm finding I'm someone who struggles to talk for only 60 seconds, and being someone who doesn't like to stick to a script, it's very difficult for me to make 1-minute YouTube videos. So hence why we're trying YouTube instead of TikTok for the meantime, and we'll see if I can get better at condensing down my waffle into 1-minute videos. And then down here I've got IGTV. Once again, these are ones that are kind of on the way and I'm planning on doing soon. And then down here we have the blog, which I've only just launched. I've got 2 posts on there at the moment, so these are the 2 that I've written, but these are all ones that I'm planning to write and will have written soon. And I've also just started my newsletter as well, because I have been freelancing for quite a while and I realized I don't have a mailing list, and my past clients would probably like to keep up with what I'm doing, but also just like my Instagram audience, I give a lot of tips and help with like writing and editing and starting your creative business. So I thought it would be a good way to kind of continue that conversation outside of Instagram, because Instagram can be just a bit too algorithmy for want of a better word. I love Instagram, it's my favorite platform, but yeah, inboxes are a bit nicer. I can be a bit more long form and we can have a conversation that doesn't rely on an algorithm. So yeah, and then down here you'll have, this is my archive of all my Instagram posts. So this is really helpful for content repurposing. So say I was sick one week and I didn't have the mental energy to write 2 or 3 new Instagram captions, I could go back through and find some that did really well or that I want to talk about again and repost those old captions in the grid, the new grid. And that just means I don't have to be reinventing the wheel every time. And that's also another way, like a lot of these captions, sorry, I'm probably scrolling too quickly for you, but a lot of these captions inspired blog posts for me as well. So this one was a Instagram post that did really well, how to survive criticism as a sensitive intuitive. And I got a really good response to this particular Instagram post, so I decided to turn that into a blog post, which has also been doing really well. So yeah, I use Instagram as kind of like a feeler, and that will be where I'll create all of my new content, and then when stuff goes really well on Instagram, I'll use it to like repurpose into longer form content like a blog or an IGTV video, or probably in the future now a YouTube video. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how YouTube is going to be fitting into this content creation process. But in the meantime, I will jump through to my TailorMade dashboard. So TailorMade Media is the name of my business, and my husband and I work in it together. He does a lot of the back end stuff. He works with like our bookkeeper and that sort of thing, just to kind of keep the back end of the business working really well. And then I work with our visual designer Rach and in the front end of the business with working with clients and creating the content and stuff like that. So it works really well for both of our strengths. So I created this dashboard here for my business, for somewhere for Rach in particular to come and we can kind of get inspired about the content that we're going to be creating. And if you look down at the circle, you will see Princess Misty has decided to come and join me. She's glued to my side, so we'll probably feature in quite a lot of YouTube videos, if I'm honest. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy seeing her and she doesn't jump in front of the camera too much. But yeah, so this was just, I actually need to update this. I tend to update this once a quarter because our business is always changing and evolving. And I think that that is something really important, but it also means that sometimes the content that we created a couple of months ago may not be relevant to what we're doing. Hopefully Misty's not purring too loudly into the microphone. Let's just move her. There we go. Now I've lost my train of thought, but I think the short story was I need to update this page here, and then down here we've got a database of quotes, and these I use in my content all the time. I insert them into my blog posts, I put them on graphics that I post on Instagram, I send them in my newsletter. It's just very, I find quotes super inspiring, and I know lots of other people do, particularly creatives. So it serves my nerdy soul to have a collection of them that I can refer to. And I tend to quote things in conversation a lot, so it helps to have something that I can refer to on the go as well, so that I'm making sure I'm quoting people correctly. I also have a content calendar, which I'll click onto briefly. Basically, this is the same database as everything I have on my content creation hub. If you don't know what a database is, it is a little bit more like advanced Notion. So I would recommend watching some more like how-to type videos if the creating like linked database and different views. What's the word, confuses you, because I don't feel like I would explain it very well and I might confuse you even more. So after that we have a page where I'll do my fortnightly catch-ups with Rach, and we'll start to plan what everything is going to look like content-wise over the next couple of weeks, and what needs to be done on her end and what I need to provide for her in order for her to get her work done. And it just keeps us on top of things and keeps me accountable so that I'm not procrastinating on all the important things I need to make in order for Rach to do her job properly. So that's like the couple more boring pages in my workspace, but then we'll go to my personal dashboard. So this is where I spend, if I'm not doing content, I'm pretty much in this dashboard doing all sorts of things. So at the top, we've got just like my personal planning over here. I started using this particular system that I'm using in 2020 in September, I think, or November even, or October. There we go. And yeah, I really love it. It's worked really well for me. So I've used it for the first part of 2021, and we're now in May. So I can't see myself changing this anytime soon. It's the first organizational system I've ever created that I've stuck to. And I will just put a quick disclaimer as well. A lot of what I've created in my personal dashboard, particularly the projects and the goals, and then some, but not very much anymore, of my personal organization system, which I'm going through in here, is actually based either on Michelle B's Life Map Planner itself, or I've used her Life Map Notion templates, which you can purchase off of her Life Map Collective website. I've used a lot of her stuff to kind of kickstart the way I've started doing things, because that's the one good thing about Notion is once you've got a template, you can kind of learn and customize it from there. It's harder to start from scratch. So her template pack is really, really good. It's based on the David Allen Getting Things Done system. If you haven't read that book, it's quite a cool book. It's about organizing everything that's living in your brain and getting it out into a system like Notion. When David Allen wrote the book, it was all based on like filing cabinets and having all of your everything filed away all the time. So yeah, I think the updated version does talk a bit about digital planning, but it's a very cool system and really intuitive. I find it was just a bit restrictive for me, so I've played around with it and made it fit myself. But yeah, I just want to give full disclaimer that a lot of what I've done hasn't come directly from my brain. I've sought inspiration from other creators as well, and Michelle B is definitely a massive inspiration for me when it comes to my organization and my planning, because that's basically what all of her content is all about. So if you haven't seen her yet, she's a really cool fellow Aussie creator, so you should definitely go check her out. I can link her channel in the description for you as well. And yeah, I think from here I will jump in and show you what my personal planning is like from like month to month. So what I'm doing here is I'm clicking into the template and I'm pressing configure, because I know it cuts off this little menu in the screen. But once I press configure, I can come in and click on a new month, because then I won't need to show you all of my personal stuff that I've got happening in my current month. I can just take you through the actual plan. So we could say that this would be June, and then this is how I start off my month when I do my monthly reset. I'll finish at the end of the previous month. I'll do my monthly retrospective, and then that will feed into how I plan my new month. So these were all the questions that I'll make for it. And it just helps to kind of keep me on track for my goals. I do the, if you've read the 12-week year, I can't remember who wrote it, but he basically says that 12 weeks or 3 months is like the ideal time to create a goal that you'll actually achieve, because you tend to remain pretty much the same person over a 3-month period, versus New Year's resolutions don't really work, because you end up being a completely different person in December to what you were in January. So you're less likely to achieve long-term goals over the year than if you break them down into like quarterly goals, because then you're making sure that what you're trying to achieve in your life is still resonating with who you are as a person. So I definitely subscribe to that. It's worked so much better for me than when I was trying to do New Year's resolutions for all those years. So mostly for this, that's what that's working on, and you'll see it more in the week-to-week planning. If I jump in here and press configure again, it will take me to a week. And this is what my weekly planning will look like. I used to have that I would open up individual days and that would have the individual day of journaling as well, kind of similar to what Michelle B does in her life map. But I was finding that too restrictive for me and too hard. Like I had to remember to click into the individual days. It's just so much easier to have the whole week in front of me and me remembering what's going on for the entire week all at once. So I will, here it's talking about main goals and mini goals. That actually, it comes from my quarterly reset. So usually when I'm planning out my month and my weeks, I have Notion open in a second window on my second screen, because I'm someone lucky who has 2 screens. Perks of having a gamer boyfriend. But after I have, gamer husband now, gosh, Danica, it's been 3 years married, he's not your boyfriend anymore, but yeah, I'll have my quarterly reset open in a second window, and that's when I'll be working out what my next steps are, which is another thing from David Allen's Getting Things Done. I'll work out what my next actions are and where in my week they're going to fit into. And then I just make sure I do a midweek check-in and see if I'm on track and see if I need to adjust anything. So let's say I tend to top load my week and have lots to do on a Monday, and then on a Friday I'll have a to-do that's just like catch up on what I haven't got done for the week. So that means that things I haven't got done on Monday, I can drag and drop them onto another day. drag and drop them onto another day. So that means that when I look at Monday, everything is nicely ticked off because it's got everything that I got done for that day. I don't have any to-dos from Monday that I didn't get ticked off, and that doesn't hurt my self-esteem. So that is one of the reasons I really love Notion, is because it allows me to do that. And then at the end of the week, sometimes I'll have things moved onto the weekend because I'm still learning to not work through the weekends and actually take time for myself. It's a big thing that I'm working on at the moment. But at the end of the week, I will do my Sunday reflection, and I'll think about, what happened during the week that meant I didn't get everything done, if I didn't get everything done, which I pretty much never get everything done because I always start the week with really high expectations, and then I have to figure out where I sort of wasn't being realistic in my expectations at the end of the week. And slowly but surely I'm getting better, and usually now there's only 2 or 3 things there instead of 5 or 6 because I have more realistic expectations of what I can get done across the whole week, largely thanks to this system and the reflection that it encourages. And I definitely credit Michelle B's life map with this system in particular, the reflections, because she's very big on reflecting and going back and looking at how your goals are fitting in with who you are and what you're currently able to do. So I definitely encourage you to check out her life map Instagram and her community and her website, because she's got some really amazing ideas and plans and templates for you to use, which is really cool. Sorry, I'm not used to talking for so long, but what I'll do is I'll take you back and show you the quarterly reset. So I've just clicked back in my menu back to the 2021 page, and you can see it. I don't know if you can see it in the scene, but there is a toolbar at the top that shows you the different pages that you've clicked to, like breadcrumbs. So I'll show you the quarterly reset now. And this did start based quite heavily on Michelle B's life map once again, but I've also read a couple of other things in the meantime that kind of talk more to my creative side rather than just my organizational side. So I've got a bit more visioning happening in here than what I used to have. I used to start just from the theme, but I've added this in here and I've changed a few things from hers. So, but I do still think, especially the lower part, it's very much Michelle's life map, the actual journal itself, but transferred into Notion, because her life map journal isn't in Notion. It's either paper or you can purchase like the digital one, but it is really only compatible with Apple products, the digital one. I didn't find it worked very well with my Windows Surface Pro, so that is what. And I also, once again, it was just, I couldn't adjust it and change it to suit myself, which is why I use Notion to make it more personalized. So I start out with the visionary meets the entrepreneur, and this is a concept from the book Wiser and Wilder by Kaya Singer. She is a wonderful motherly soul who I would love to have as my business coach one day, because she's the epitome of a creative soul meets a entrepreneur, kind of more logical thinking, and she's found a really good way of blending those 2 parts of yourself together, and she calls them the wiser and wilder parts of your inner woman. So if you are a creative feminine soul like myself, then you'll probably really love that book. So once again, that was Wiser and Wilder by Kaya Singer, but she has an exercise in her book which is the visionary meets the entrepreneur, and when I was reading the book I did the exercise and I found it super helpful. So your inner visionary is like your creative soul, so it's like, what are your goals for what you've got going on that would really fulfill that vision. So for example, for me, I've worked one-on-one with clients for quite a while, and there's a few pain points and things that I've found if they just knew how to do some things better, then their life would be easier. So for example, as a freelance editor working with self-published authors, I have a vision to create a course to help authors see themselves more as business people rather than purely creatives, because that is the journey that I've gone on to reach success in my business, and so I want them to have that same feeling as well. So that is the goal that I put in here as my visionary, and then yeah, you can see here who the prompt is. What is my soul work? What do I want to bring to the world, and why? What makes it so important? So with that author course, it was like, well, it makes their lives easier and it makes them more successful, and it means we get more amazing self-published books because we don't have people who are having their inner creative crushed by the doubt and the imposter syndrome that can come with being a creative. So it's providing education, which is also a core value of mine, which we'll talk about in a minute. But then we've got the entrepreneur. So it's like, who is my entrepreneur? How do I feel about my business garden? Am I nurturing? Excuse my typo, nurturing. My roots to grow stronger, and what does my entrepreneur need to learn? So for example, I feel really good about my business garden in the sense that I work really well with my one-on-one clients, but I'm not really sure how I'm going to transition into being a teacher and a course leader. So like, what have I got to learn in order to do that really well? So I need to learn how to write a course. Well, I know how to write a course. I've written courses for other people, but I need to learn how to actually sell that course and how to make it accessible and easy for people to learn and things like that. So you can see how like my brain just kind of cogs and turns over, and you can see how there'd be a lot that would kind of come out in that exercise, which would then inform a lot of what I'm saying down here. So Michelle B, once again, is really big on choosing a theme for your quarter or for your year. I tend to go quarterly because I don't find a whole year theme really works for me, because I go through such different stages throughout the year. But so for example, the first quarter of this year, my quarterly theme was momentum, because we were getting a lot of momentum in the business and I wanted to help keep that going. So I chose momentum as my theme, and I chose 4 words that kind of helped emulate that and how it would help grow and capitalize on that momentum in the next quarter. This I deviate from Michelle a little bit here. She usually has these 4 words are what you write down here, and then you ask how you can embrace it in the next quarter. But I actually found revisiting my own core personal values more helpful than using those 4 words, because I think these speak to me more on like a deeper level. And if you have ever looked at the TailorMade Media online website, then you'll know that confidence, creativity, and collaboration are also the 3 core values for our business, because for me, my business and my core values are very interconnected, because I'm working so closely with my clients and will be in the future with my students. I'm not someone who's going to be removed. I always want to be close and collaborative and creative with all of the people that I work with. And then my other 2 core values are persistence and education. So how can I persist when things get hard, and how can I continue to learn and also help other people learn as well, because education is a privilege that is a privilege at the moment but should be a right. So how can I help make it more of a right than a privilege, I guess, is where I'm coming from with that without getting too political. And this also is something from Michelle B. She loves a start and a stop list. So it's like I've thought about my values, I've thought about my theme and what I want to achieve. So what am I doing at the moment that I should stop doing, that is stopping me from embracing these core values and from reaching my goals? And what can I start doing instead of what I'm doing here that will help make me come more into alignment with what I've just thought about up here. And then this is just sort of leading into the more goal setting and more logical way of approaching things with goal setting, more David Allen's kind of thing, where I've got a discomfort list and experience list for the quarter. Again, this is from Michelle B. And for example, in my discomfort list this quarter was start a YouTube channel. So that's what I'm doing. So go me, I can tick one of those off. And in the experiences list, it's like things that you want to do more, whether it's, going to a watercolor class or walking more or going and trying out a new walk in your area that you haven't done before or something like that. And connection is people you'd like to connect with more. So for me, this actual quarter, I wanted to have more people I was connecting with who were also in creative business like me. I don't have a lot of creative people who I can connect with in my local community. I haven't found people yet, but just by making that something that I wanted to do this quarter, I've become really good friends with a client of mine, and Rach and I have, you know, become much closer, and she's on her honeymoon in Queensland at the moment, so we're going to meet. And yeah, I've found, just by making that something that I knew I was going to focus on and find more creatives to connect with, they've come naturally into my life. So it's a little bit of that, like manifestation, I suppose is what you want to call it, versus like actually planning. I think it's more, if you actually plan for something to happen and put it in the forefront of your mind, then you're more likely to make it happen, versus if you just sit and do nothing and wish about it. And this is the growth list, so that's coming in with education again. So what am I doing that can help me grow more? What books can I read? What documentaries can I watch? Or I also think growth is very much a creative thing as well. So what new shows or books can I read in the fiction or creative genres that are going to help me grow that part of my brain as well and inspire me creatively? For example, Shadow and Bone has come out recently, and I've just finished working on a fantasy novel with an author who really loved the series, so I want to watch that as well. I definitely would count that on the growth list, because I'm learning about, you know, ways of writing character and drama and fantasy. So yeah, growth doesn't mean boring or purely educational necessarily. And so this is where we start to really knuckle down on the dreams and the visions that I put in my entrepreneur versus visionary section up the top there. It's this is once again all purely Michelle B's life map. I don't think I've changed anything here. So I definitely suggest either purchasing the digital or paper planner if that's going to work for you, and then using that to inspire your building out your Notion, because anything that's from Michelle B, I won't be making a template out of anytime soon, because it's her business and her templates that have inspired me. So I won't be trying to muscle in on that at all. And so this is where you choose some of those things that you've brainstormed up here and put them in and rate how excited you are. And then we decide on a main goal and a mini goal, and that's what you would have seen in the weekly planning. I'll be looking at these and thinking, okay, what is the next step I can do on these? And to make that easier, we go through and we create a plan based on that goal, and we have the actions that need to be taken for that goal. And so that can really make it really easy to inform the planning part of my week, because these will be most likely to-dos that I can tick off that I've done in previous weeks, and then I'll know what the next steps are for that goal. And then these are the milestones that I can tick off for my main and mini goals, and that is my quarterly reset. So it sounds like a lot, but I do only do this exercise once every 3 months, and then it just makes the next 3 months so much easier, because I have a clear idea of what I'm trying to achieve. And I use the last monthly retrospective in those 3 months to reflect on the entire quarter instead of just the previous month. And it's been working really well for me so far. So that is my personal planning. So if we jump back to my dashboard, you can see here I've got, these are from Michelle B's Notion pack. I actually haven't started using them yet, so I'm not going to go in because they're purely hers and she has tours of them. So you should go check out her YouTube channel if you want to look at those, because I literally haven't changed anything about that. And then here I've got my swipe file from Austin Kleon's book Steal Like an Artist. If you've read that, you'll know what a swipe file is. Basically, I just fill it with inspiration of other cool things I've seen on the internet, and this is just a database gallery that I've duplicated all the way down, and I've just got things in there that inspire me that other creators have created that I want to create some sort of personal version of. And then I've got my life goals. I'll go back here so that you can see my life goals are on my personal dashboard as well. So these are things I'm working towards at the moment. They're blurred out because they will be relevant to the course I was speaking about earlier. So that is going to remain a surprise. And then down here, I've got my client projects. So again, I've got these blurred out to protect my clients, but I will show you what the template looks like, because it is loosely based on Michelle B's, but I have changed it a little bit, but I'll go through and fill all of that out. I also have a IGTV on my Instagram that goes through that in more depth, which I think will be more helpful than me doing it now because this video is getting quite long. And then down here I have my personal writing projects. So this is the book template I was telling you about at the start of the video, and this is where I have my manuscript and I have my, like, all of my planning for my book all goes all in here with characters and Act 1, Act 2, and then further along here I've got Act 3 as well. I can open this as a full page too so that it's easier, and that's how I'm most likely looking at it. But like I said at the start of the video, I have a more in-depth tour of this and why I decided to use this instead of say Scrivener or Google Docs or something like that for planning my book. So if you want to watch that, then that will be either linked in the top of the video here or it will be down in the description below, depending on whether or not I know how to do the link in the top of the video yet, because like I said, first ever YouTube video, so let's see how we go. But yeah, so I think that's like a pretty in-depth view of how I do things on Notion. So like I have a reference page, is probably the last page that I can show you, and it's like business techie instructions. So that's like for my camera, or I think I can't remember what the other thing was, but it was signing up like our bookkeeping system and things like that, just instructions on how to use them. This is the Notion pack from Michelle B. I do highly recommend it. I will be honest, I probably only use one page out of that pack now, but that's because I found David Allen's system a bit restrictive for me, even though it is a really good book to read and there's a lot of good concepts that I do use. It's not a system that I stick ruthlessly to, and the Notion pack is based very much on that. But if you're interested in using it, then you should go check out Michelle B's Notion tours, because she goes through how she uses the system and you can decide whether or not that would work for you. And then Centrelink is the kind of social security place for Australians, and I record all of our calls and dates and who we spoke to and everything on there, because that's just a good way. And then receipts for things that I bought for warranty, or like our list for going away. For example, I've got things here that we need to do when we're going away and things we need to pack, because we always forget something. Usually for me, I forget underwear. Adam will usually forget phone charger. There's just always something we forget, so it's good to have a list to check before we go away. So it's just little things like that that are more basic. And I did also, when we had our podcast, I planned our podcast on here, but that's on hold at the moment just because we were getting a bit overwhelmed with running the business and doing the podcast, because the podcast was a hobby. It wasn't related to our business, even though it was called the Tailor Made Podcast. It's just because it was Adam and I talking together about our relationship and interviewing friends and stuff. So we will probably do that again one day if you're interested. There's about 30 episodes that you can binge listen to. But yeah, that's my Notion tour. I'm going to go full screen again, so just a moment. Okay, well that is a full tour of my Notion system that I use for content creation and personal planning and for writing my books and working with my clients. So if you are looking to connect with me more in between YouTube videos, because I'm not entirely sure what system I'm going to have in place for YouTube at the moment, since this is my first video, I'm thinking probably just one video per week, but yeah, let's not nail myself down to anything just yet because I'm not sure. But if you'd like to connect with me in the meantime, you can come hang out with me on Instagram. My profile is linked in the description, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with you. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. But if you would like to support me and see more videos, I'd love if you could subscribe and hit that notification bell, because apparently that's what YouTube likes. Okay, cool. Well, I will see you in my next video.